Hello everyone, welcome back to the Python series, and today we're going to be learning about lists in Python. So let's dive right in. So what is a list? A list is essentially a collection of items or data. You can think of a list like a box where you can store multiple values or different types of data. Now that we know what a list is, let's see how we can create one in Python. Alright guys, so let's start creating our list. First, let's create a variable. Let's call it fruits, which will store our list. So we'll set it equal to our list. So to create a list, guys, in Python, we use these squared brackets, open and closed. So now we have an empty list stored inside of our fruits variable. So now let's print it out. So we can type print and then our fruits variable. And if we save our code and then we run it, you'll see we'll get our list printed onto the screen. So there we have our empty list. Alright guys, now that we have our empty list, let's add some items to it. So let's add an item to our list. In this case, it will be a fruit. So we'll simply go in between our squared brackets, open and closed. And now we can simply type in the fruits that we want. So we'll create a string, let's say apple, and if we save our code and then we run it, you'll realize our list gets printed out. So we have apple as a fruit inside of our list. Now let's say we wanted to add more items to our list. In this case, more fruits to our list. We simply go into our list and we separate each item with a comma. So we simply come right beside apple and we add a comma and we create a string and let's add the fruit mango and let's add another one. So a comma again, let's say cherry, and let's add one more fruit, let's say banana. And if we save our code, Control S or Command S on Mac, and then we run it, you'll see we'll get our fruits printed out. So we have apple, mango, cherry, and banana. And that is how we add items to our list, guys. Now guys, lists don't have to store just words. They can store numbers or even a mix of different kinds of data or data types. Now let me demonstrate this to you guys. So let's create a variable. Let's call it numbers and we'll set it equal to our lists. Notice open and close square brackets and let's add some numbers to our list. Let's say 12, comma, let's say 14, 19, 17, 21, 32. And now let's print out our numbers variable. So we'll type print numbers to print out our list. And then we'll save our code and then we run it. And you'll see our list will get printed out. So there we have our numbers 12, 14, 19, 17, 21, and 32. So list, guys, can literally store any kind of data. Notice before in our fruits variable or our fruits list, we were only storing strings or words. Now guys, remember I said that lists can store a mix of different kinds of data. Let me demonstrate this to you guys. So let's create a variable, let's call it mixed, and it will be set equal to our list. And now let's add a string to our list. Let's let it contain apple. And let's add a number, let's say 17. Let's add a float or decimal number, let's say 18.55. And let's add a Boolean value to our list. So let's say true. And let's add false as well. And now let's print out our mixed list. So we can type print mixed. And if we save our code and then we run it, you'll see our list will get printed out. So there we have it. Apple 17, 18.55, true, false. So list, guys, can store any type of data as a collection or different data types. Now guys, we can also access individual items or elements inside of a list. This is called indexing. Now guys, in Python, lists are ordered, which means that each item or element inside of the list has a position called an index. Indexing always starts at 0 for the first item. Here's what this really means. It means that apple would be at index position 0, and then our second item would be at index position 1, and then cherry would be at index position 2, and mango would be at index position 3, and so on if more elements were present in our list. Now let's say we wanted to grab the first fruit or item within our list. To do this, let's try to print out the first item within our list. So we can type print, and then we could simply write our fruits variable. And then we could type the index operator, these open and close squared brackets, and then inside of it, we could provide an index for the element that we want to grab from our list. So our first element always starts at index position 0. So we could simply put a 0 inside of here, and if we save our code and then we run it, you'll see we'll get apple printed onto the screen. So there we get apple. So we could do this for any item we want to access. Let's say we wanted to access cherry. We simply look at the index position at where cherry is at. So apple is at 0, banana is at 1, cherry is at 2. So we simply type print fruits and then these open and close squared brackets, and cherry is at position 2, so we simply type 2 and then we save our code, then we run it, and you'll see we get apple and cherry printed onto the screen. And that is just the basics of indexing or accessing items from our list. Now guys, in addition to accessing items within a list, we can also modify items by their index. So if we run our code guys, you'll see we get apple, banana, cherry, and mango printed onto the screen. So let's say we wanted to modify or change the name of a fruit within our list. To do this, we could simply come right here and we could type our fruits variable. Then we could write the indexing operator, so these open and close squared brackets. And then we could provide an index for the element that we want to modify or change. So let's say we wanted to change banana to a different fruit, let's say pineapple. We simply get the index of banana, which is at index position 1, and we put 1 inside of these squared brackets. And now right here we set it equal to, let's say, the fruit pineapple. So pineapple, and then we save our code, then we run it, and now you'll see we'll get pineapple right there. So we changed our fruit from banana to pineapple. Let's change another fruit. Let's say we wanted to change from apple to, let's say, guava. We simply get the index of the fruit apple. So we say fruits at index of 0 equals to guava. And now if we save our code and then we run it, you'll see we changed our fruit from apple to guava. So guava, pineapple, cherry, and mango. And that is how you modify items by their index. Alright guys, now let's look at something called negative indexing. This lets us access elements starting from the end of the list instead of from the beginning of the list. Now guys, with negative indexing, Python starts counting from the end of the list to the beginning of the list. Let me show you guys what this means. So starting from the last element is always at -1. The second last element is always at position -2. The third last element is always at -3. And then the fourth last element is always at -4. And so on if there were more items or elements present inside of the list. So that is how negative indexing works. So let me demonstrate this to you guys. So with negative indexing, guys, let's say I wanted to access the fruit banana from the list. In order to do this, I could just write the index operator, the open and close brackets, squared brackets, and then I could simply write the negative index. In this case, banana is at -3, so I simply put -3 right here. So let's save the code and then run it, and you'll see we'll get banana printed onto the screen. Let's try another example. Let's say we want to access cherry. We simply put -2 right here, since cherry is at -2, and then we run it, and then you'll see we'll get cherry printed onto the screen. So that is negative indexing. Now guys, what if we tried to access an index that was invalid inside of our list? Let me just go above here and add some regular indices to label these. So 0, 1, 2, 3. So now we have all of our valid indices that we can use. Now let's say we tried to access an element at index position 4. So we'll simply go right here and we'll put 4 right there. If we save our code and then we run it, you'll realize Python will give us an error. So here we get an error, list index out of range. Now let's try it with a negative index. Let's say -5. And if we save our code, then we run it, you'll see we'll still get an error. So guys, whenever we're trying to index into a list, we always have to ensure that our index is valid or within the range of our list. If it is too low or too high, Python will give us an error. Alright guys, now that we have covered indexing, let's move on to slicing. Slicing lets us grab multiple items from a list at once instead of just one. So let me demonstrate slicing to you guys, but first let me show you the slicing format. So the slicing format is we have a list and then we provide the index operator, these squared brackets open and close, and then we provide the starting index, and then followed by a colon, and then the end index. The start index is inclusive and the end index is exclusive, which means if we want to include the end index, we always have to let the end index be +1. So let's say we wanted to grab these two fruits from our list, guys, banana and cherry. We could use slicing to do this. So we could simply type print, and then we could type our fruits list and then our index. Now we'll need to provide the start index to perform slicing. So the start index of banana would be at index 1. So we put 1 followed by a colon, and then we provide our end index. In this case, cherry is at position 2. But if we put 2 right here, we will not get cherry included because the end index is exclusive. So instead we have to put 3 right here. And now if we save our code and then we run it, you will see that banana and cherry gets printed as a list onto the screen. If we did not make the end index 3, here's what would happen. We would only get banana printed onto the screen. because the end index is exclusive. So you always have to make it be +1 if you want it to include up to that particular end index position. And there it is. Now let's say we wanted to get the first 3 items within our list. Let's do this. So we simply do slicing. So inside of our indexing operator, we provide the start index, apple is at position 0, and then we add a colon after that, and then the end index. Remember that the end index is exclusive, so cherry is at position 2, which means the end index should be 3. And then if we save our code and then we run it, you'll see that we get apple, banana, and cherry printed within our sliced list. Now guys, a thing to note about the start index is that we don't have to specify if it is 0. We could actually take out this 0, and if we save our code, Python will just assume that we want to start from 0, which is the beginning of our list. So if we run our code, you'll see we'll still get apple, banana, and cherry printed onto the screen. And just like the start index, guys, the end index can also be optional. If we take out this 3, Python will just assume that we want to go from the start of the list to the end of the list. So if we save our code, then we run it, you'll see everything gets printed out. Let's try to print starting from banana. So for our start index, we simply type 1. And if we save our code, you'll see it starts printing from banana until we reach the end of our list. We could also do negative slicing, guys, which means that we use negative numbers for our indexes instead. So let's demonstrate this. Let's say we wanted to get these 2 items, banana and cherry. What we do for our start index, we find the start index for banana. It is at -3. So we simply make our start index be -3, then followed by a colon. We provide our end index. Cherry is at -2, but remember our end index is exclusive, so we have to do +1. So instead our end index should be -1. And if we save our code, then we run it, you'll see we'll get banana and cherry. And let's say we wanted to get mango, we could actually get rid of this -1 and leave this as optional, and it will go until the end of the list. So if we save our code, we should now get banana, cherry, and mango. And there it is. So that is just the basics of slicing, guys. Another cool thing we could do with slicing, guys, is actually reverse our list. But before I show you guys that, let me show you guys one more property of the slicing format. So right here where we have our end index, we could have another colon right here, and then we have another value that is known as the step value, which basically tells Python how to walk through our list. So as I was saying, guys, let's say we wanted to reverse the list. In order to do this, we could provide the start index, but instead we'll simply have 2 colons right here. And we'll leave the start index and the end index empty. And then for the step value, we could put a -1 right here. And what that will do is tell Python, hey, start printing from the beginning of the list until the end of the list, but do it in reverse. So Python will walk backwards -1 or one step at a time. So if we save our code and then we run it, you'll see our list will be in reverse order. So see, we get mango, cherry, banana, and then apple. So that is how we reverse our list using slicing. Now guys, since the step value tells Python how many items we should go through our list by, Let's say we wanted to print every second element within our list. We could simply go right where our step value is, right here, and we could change this to a 2. And if we save our code, then we run it, you'll realize it will print every second element within our list. So there it is, apple, cherry, because those are the second items, every second items within our list. All right, so you guys just learned the basics of working with lists in Python. I hope you all learned something valuable. Stay tuned. Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to smash the like and subscribe button. And I'll see you in the next episode.